what do you think of the Mourinho news? And what he's alluding to is Jose Mourinho was sacked by Tottenham today.
I'll tell you. So I got up, and obviously my timeline was full of the Super League stuff. So much so that when I saw this tweet to me, I thought that they were just anticipating something was going to happen. I didn't realize that it already had happened. I had to go search it online, and it showed, yes, Jose Mourinho has been fired. That's how big this Super League story was. And I don't know if that's good or bad for Mourinho, who is used to being the center of attention, right? Although, he's getting fired, and all anybody wants to talk about, and all anybody is talking about, is the Super League. By the way, the Spurs got in, right? They got into the Super League, so they're going to be they're going to be okay, right? So, I mean, is this going to change the fortunes of this team? Should it be a surprise? I think it got to a point where they wanted to do it at a time that gave them enough lead up and enough time to make a change right now. Whether that's a temporary type of thing or a much long term, because they fired the entire staff, not just Mourinho. The entire staff is gone, and I just think that they looked at this and said, this is going to get worse before it gets better, and I don't think it's going to get better. So I think that this is ultimately a good thing. This was not going in the right direction anymore, and I don't think that it could be resurrected and headed in the right direction. Mosse, what about you?
Well, the timing is fascinating because Tottenham play this upcoming weekend Manchester City at Wembley in the League Cup final. And we've talked about this on the podcast. Yep. Mourinho was clearly circling that game and saying, if I can figure out a way to win that game and win a trophy, it would be Tottenham's first trophy in more than a decade, then I might be able to turn this whole narrative around and claim that this season was a success by the mere fact that we won a trophy. They didn't win anything under Pochettino. And in my first full season, I've delivered a trophy. And Tottenham, I think, actually feared that scenario in a way and decided to pull the plug on this before he had a chance to accomplish that. But yeah, there are two overriding questions when it comes to Jose Mourinho. Number one is, can a manager, quote unquote, lose it? Because, it would be preposterous for a player who's being criticized for his form in 2021 to rebut that by pointing to some performance of his in 2010. We'd all look at that and say, well, who cares? That was 10 years ago. We're talking about now. But when Jose Mourinho is criticized for his coaching methods and questioned about the job he's doing with the club in 2021, he has no issue referencing, well, how could you question me? I won such and such. And he mentions trophies won in 2004 and 2010. And I guess the question is that relevant? When you're talking about a manager, can a manager who was great and who had the success that he had lose it? Or what do you make of that?
Oh, they can definitely lose it. I mean, I think there's only one thing to say to Jose Mourinho. All right, Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately? Okay, and he knows that, but he is grasping. He is grasping to anything as he feels that sinking feeling that is coming on. And to your point, not having that ability to point to silverware or potentially point to silverware here, that is going to irk him. Now he'll try to take, if Tottenham does go on and win it, he'll try to take credit for it and say, I brought them to the brink, and then they got rid of me and they didn't want me there, and because that's kind of what he does. But I still think he's a fascinating character. I still think he can be a good coach. I don't think, because people have charged that the game has passed him by. I don't necessarily think that the game has passed him by. I just think that the scenarios and the situations in which he is applicable and which he can be successful are much more limited when it comes out there, which is why that next move of his, who knows? I don't know what it's going to be. Maybe it's international, but he's still going to get plenty of opportunities out there because he is Jose Mourinho. To your point, what he has done over the span of his career, including back in 2010.
And the other Mourinho point I want to make is I do feel like we grade him on a curve, but he has only himself to blame. And what I mean by that is Mourinho and his devotees want to make it just about results and how do his results compare with other managers. But I look at it as, are his results so good to compensate for the negative intangibles that he seems to bring to any situation? The toxic atmosphere, he alienates his own players, he makes your club unlikable, he plays a boring brand of football. And so if the results are really, really good, you can argue that it's worth the trade-off. But if they're just okay, then you start to wonder, well, we could probably be doing more or less the same with another manager who's not as much of a headache to deal with. So, I know that bothers his devotees. They point to Mourinho versus this and Mourinho. Wait a minute. His results aren't that much different. But that's the point. The results aren't that much different. And that guy isn't the headache that you are. So do you think that's fair? Do you think we do judge Mourinho in that way?
Well, I mean, you hit upon a thing. The baggage that comes with him is something that you have to factor in. It's what you're, in essence, it's what you are paying for, but it sucks the air out of the room. It creates challenges that maybe weren't there in terms of the personnel and how you're dealing with it from a media perspective. All that kind of stuff has to be, has to be factored in when you hire Jose Mourinho. And some people want that. And some people think that is a good thing. And certainly Spurs thought at the moment that it was a good thing. But, it'd be interesting to hear in the coming days. Well, I don't know if he'll talk a whole lot, but eventually he will talk about his time and what he ultimately, how he tries to shape the narrative and what he points to as were the problems. And was it because everyone said very nice things on his going out. I love to work with him, all that kind of stuff. Does he point to the leadership there or decisions that were made that he had no control of, or maybe he didn't have any control over? So all that will come out as he tries to resurrect his image out there, and there'll be plenty of people that are doing it, that will be doing it for him. And I'm not saying it's not justified. Like I said, I am not willing to give up on the ability and the talent, and I think ultimately the brilliance that can be Jose Mourinho in the right type of situation and scenario. I don't know what that is out there, and which is why if he were to make the jump to the international game, and that's always hard because of the limited time that you have on the field, and I don't know how much of a junkie he ultimately is for that time on the field, or if he's just a junkie for the attention and the challenge, and which you could certainly get in the international game too. But it goes away, that day in and day out type of existence. And maybe that's something that he would really thrive under. And I'm here to see it. But I'm trying to think of what national team out there would be a team that needs to do something to improve, but is not a complete bottom feeder and still has enough cachet to qualify and I guess to deserve the greatness of Mourinho.
You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops every week. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.